Rise of Legends is an RTS game that is set in a world where magic and technology are the central conflict that our forces are fighting over. This allows for a lot of great graphics to go along with the great gameplay that we brought to the RTS genre with Rise of Nations. So one of the major goals for Rise of Legends was to create three races that played really differently, but that were all in balance to each other. So for the Vinci, they are kind of the very invention-oriented guys. They're going to come at you with a lot of prototypes and wacky, crazy Da Vinci-inspired designs. The Aline are more the tricksy race. They're the guys that are going to summon units behind your back lines. You never really know where they're going to come from. So those are the first couple races that we've been talking about. The Coatl are a straight-ahead bruiser race. They're basically guys who are going to come mess you up with space-based technology. So their units, pound for pound, are more expensive, but they're also better than the other two races' units. So they may come at you with a smaller army, a smaller looking army, but each of those guys is equipped with a personal shield that they're going to be able to absorb a lot of damage. The heroes have a lot of spells that are very much oriented towards direct damage and just messing up your army. And so they are a very powerful race when played properly. With Rise of Nations, there were a lot of things that we thought would work really well in a fantasy strategy game. So when we started off designing Rise of Legends, we looked at Rise of Nations and said, all right, what do we think really works in the context of a fantasy world? So one of the most obvious things we kept is this concept of cities that are the big centers of your empire. In Rise of Legends, those cities are massive on screen. Graphically, they're visually represented as being as important as they are to the gameplay. We definitely love the national border system that allows you to have this concept of territory that you're not allowed to build. It kind of means you have to expand towards your opponent, that there's this very natural buildup. We also kept things like attrition. We wanted the same epic scope that Rise of Nations had, where you have big armies that are on the screen that are fighting, so you really feel like you're kind of marshaling around these large armies instead of just microing 5 or 10 units in your army. And those were some of the key things that we wanted to keep from Rise of Nations. So using the Rise of Nations, the stuff we liked from Rise of Nations as a baseline, we then set about adding all the cool features that we'd sort of thought about over the years. As once we were able to get away from the realism that a history subject matter brings, we were able to put in all kinds of new ideas and new thoughts. So for example, dominances are a totally new concept in our game. You're able to compete essentially to get sub-goals that give you new powers once you've completed those sub-goals. We also have added the concept of neutral villages and other kinds of neutral sites that you can interact with that aren't directly your enemy player. You can trade with neutral sites, you can conquer them, or you can buy them or subjugate them if you are the Coatl.